stop talking, but we'll grab a bite here or there, yeah.
Right, and so, the only question I would have in that case is the one with marinara and mushroom, I'm gonna divide the half as well. I'm gonna put the half in half, so y'all understand what?
Yeah.
The one with mozzarella chicken and, marinara, I'm all for the mushroom one. It's up to you. Kevin, you like mushrooms?
Yeah,
Hey, Kevin's a fun guy. Yeah.
I'm a fun guy.
Bill had a funny.
Good for the environment.
Yes, sir, I understand. I'll get some chemicals between that stick off now.
Yeah.
Audio's good.
Audio is good. I take it we're broadcasting? Sound check, right?
Yep.
Hi, Kevin, you think?
Hold on.
I think behind Kevin would be great.
Behind me would be awesome. Check 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah? That sounds pretty good.
Lean into your mic where you would be on.
Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
You sound like you're a little hot.
All right, I can take it down.
Check 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello, hello. You're looking for a wider angle shot?
No. Only put your sign up.
Okay.
Yeah, go back here.
Actually, it's optimal if we put it about even with the end of that bench.
Here?
Yep.
That's perfect.
Okay, I think sounds good if you want to kill the box until we're ready to go.
All right, that's sound check coming up to you in 13 minutes. Thank you. Kill the box.
We'll be back.
We will be coming to you live in 30 seconds from @ or hashtag La Divina Italian Cafe, if in fact that really works on your Facebook app.
Have you talked to Jeff Johnson anymore about guesting on their program?
Yeah, he's just so scared. He's got so many things going on.
That would be a lot of fun. I love Jeff Johnson.
I guess we need to turn down some.
Todd is watching. I feel like Romper Room. Maya Vernon. God bless you.
Magic mirror.
Love you, Maya.
Here we go. Get ready. In 5, 4, 3.
Oh, we're doing a countdown.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Exiles, live from La Divina Italian Cafe.
Hello.
Hey, we have a change in the art show today. We have some brand new art.
Let me see if I can pan
Yeah,
up.
pan up and get a little of that art. Look at there.
Hey, Lance, who's the artist?
Brand new artist on display here.
What's the last name?
Stephanie Huey.
Stephanie Huey. There you see those two beautiful paintings
Yes,
behind
indeed.
us.
And
Look at that little girl. Isn't she that's just adorable.
Yes. And there's a picture of a painting of Lance and Mary, the proprietors of this wonderful cafe across the room, but we can't spin around enough.
One of the things I love about La Divina is it's not only a great place to eat and hang out and have fellowship with people you know, enjoy a cup of coffee, lunch, dinner, breakfast, but it's also kind of an impromptu art gallery, and you can buy the works on display.
Well, you can, and they also have music during the week in the evening for a nice little brasserie cafe kind of touch along with your evening meal. Now, let's get into it a little bit here. We have Steve Carter joining us at 8:30. He is running for Senate.
Yes.
And this is a three-person race right now.
Actually, 5 candidates. And I'm gonna
Three that are real.
I'm going to apologize for getting the 5th candidate's name, but he appeared at Press Club yesterday. They had all 5
Is he a
candidates.
libertarian?
I don't know what his party affiliate. I'd have to check the Secretary of State.
Because I'd like to laugh if he's a libertarian. I always enjoy laughing at libertarians during the election cycle.
But this is Dan Claytor's seat. Dan's term limited, and he's leaving the legislature. Steve Carter is running for it. He's term limited in the House, and he wants to move over to the
Make it
Senate.
sound like Dan's going to be euthanized.
No, Dan's just going to return to being a lawyer, as he always was. But you also have, we've talked with other candidates for Senate in District 16. And we're going to get Beverly Brooks Thompson on the program if she'd like to come on with us. And Franklin Foyle is also running for that seat, and Commander Bob Bell is running for that seat.
Oh, that's it, Bob Bell. Bob Bell is my giggle fest.
He's a good and earnest man.
He is a good and earnest man and can't get elected dog
Stephanie
catcher.
Huey and Elaine De Benedetto, the artists.
Those are the artists. All right, we have some, before we get to Steve, we have some local issues to get into.
Boy, do we.
First of all, I-10 is still...
The painting above your head is called the Christmas shoes. Eric knows you'll appreciate that.
Too soon.
Sorry, go ahead.
All right, so I-10 is still closed. They had a multiple 18-wheeler fatal conflagration wreck with hazardous materials, with flaming vehicles.
5.
One person died. And all right, are we this stupid in this state?
Yes.
It is a completely straight concrete roadway. No holes, no bumps. There is no... There are no sharp turns. There are no curbs. Why are these people banging into each other constantly on this road and causing traffic congestion that lasts, in this case, 4 days? This is a special kind of stupidity.
Have you ever driven a big rig or driven a bobtail-sized truck towing a trailer?
I have driven a bobtail-sized truck towing a trailer.
If you catch a stiff breeze, that trailer can kind of get away from you and wander out of the lane. I don't know that that's what happened. It might have been something more like the guy went to make a lane change and didn't realize he had a truck just right next to him but slightly behind him. something like, I didn't see him in the lane.
Or he's driving too fast and texting and listening to Merle Haggard or whatever and singing along and taking a leak in a milk jug because he didn't want to stop and ruin his time.
Of the truck.
Yeah, and? Oh, yeah, that's awful.
That was watching porn. But like you said earlier this morning, it's a long, straight stretch. You'd like to think that vehicles could get down that stretch without smacking into each other.
Well, here's what we need to do. They have accidents there, and everybody walks around and goes, "Oh God, accident." I guess people coming from Lafayette or going to Lafayette are just going to have to wait for hours and hours and hours, or take an alternate route. And what we need to do is they need to pass a bill through the next session that says all accidents on controlled access highways with limited entrances and exits, in other words, no reason to bang into each other, no reason at all, that these should be investigated, a cause should be determined, someone should be at fault, and the fines should start at $150,000 and go up from there. And if you're unable to pay the fine, then it's 15 years in prison. Because you know what? They killed somebody, first of all.
Yes. Somebody is dead.
And they inconvenienced probably 80 or 90,000 people who don't need to be inconvenienced by their stupidity. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Just sad. And the thing happened, it wasn't raining at the time?
No.
It was a rainy day yesterday.
It was a rainy day in Baton Rouge, but it was nice and sunny when that happened in the middle of the afternoon.
Wow. It was mid-afternoon?
Yeah.
And it's still, the interstate is still closed this morning.
Well, they have a hazmat situation. The fire may have damaged the structure, so they have to have inspections. I mean, the responders, DEQ, DOTD, the police, the fire, they had to ferry pumper trucks back and forth after refilling them with water. There was so much fire that they had to put out. And, you know, those pumpers, the water tanks they've got, they can pump for about 4 minutes and then they're done.
Yep, they just hold a few hundred gallons of water.
But there is no reason in clear weather to have an accident on that stretch. There's no reason in bad weather to have an accident on that stretch. You know what? If you're scared that your trailer might catch some wind and you can't control it, then you need to turn in your CDL or pull it off the side until it's not blowing anymore.
I didn't suggest anybody was scared. I just suggested that if that happened, sometimes it can take a moment to get control again. And it is a scary moment when it does happen, when you realize, hey, I'm fishtailing back there.
Well, and again, most of these trucks that we see right now, they have got more pitch, yaw, and speed control than the damn space shuttle. Have you seen the cockpit of these new trucks? I mean, they're not even, you can't even call it the cab anymore.
I haven't been in a big rig in 35 years, man. I wouldn't have any idea.
Well, some of these people drive like they haven't been in one in 35 years either. I'm sorry. This is just absolutely awful. It should not happen. And it's generally one bad driver that causes the chain reaction, because there's always congestion on that stretch. It's the only choice.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend who, strangely enough, he's a radio mentor, and now he drives tractor trailers for Coca-Cola, and that's a regular route for him. Mm-hmm. The Houston Baton Rouge run is something he does really often.
Now, here's something I want to mention. For those of you in and around Baton Rouge, and for you, Kevin, Coca-Cola probably operates 60 or 70 tractor trailers.
At any given time.
The Budweiser distributor, probably 60 to 70.
Mm-hmm.
The Miller distributor, the Pepsi 7-Up Dr. Pepper distributor, probably 30 or 40 maybe. Now, have you ever noticed one of those in an accident?
No, it's usually the lesser known, I don't want to call them hot shots, but the lesser known carriers are usually the ones involved in the accidents. And it's one thing when you're talking about a box truck that's carrying just regular cargo, but in this case you had hazardous materials.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the point I'm trying to make is the people who run those big distributors and the factory, Budweiser and Coca-Cola, the factory, the home office. They pay their people very well to run those routes. They are very, very proud of their product, and they don't want to see their logo going up in flames. So their drivers get lots of points for safety, and they get raises based on that. And you have an at-fault accident with one of those, you're out. You're gone.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's the end. Well, I was thinking about this morning as I was driving in, and I caught my first traffic report, and it said that I-10 was still closed over the Achapa, and I was like, holy crap, that's bad. I was reminded of way back during the Governor Foster administration when there was one of these equally bad tractor-trailer wrecks over there on the Atchafalaya. In this case, more than one person was killed, and that's when Governor Foster said, I'm lowering the speed on that stretch of highway. And it seemed to have helped for a while. But what can be done over there? I mean, is it a problem with the roadway, or is it just
that
bad driving?
As far as Louisiana goes, that roadway is fairly great because it's concrete, it's well supported.
I know that every time I'm on it, I'm nervous as a cat until I'm done with that stretch.
Oh yeah.
Just because, not for myself and my own driving ability, for what I might encounter from another motorist.
Well, exactly. All right, moving on. The great chicken sandwich controversy.
Wow.
There are people that are upset about this. That Popeyes and Chick-fil-A and to a lesser extent KFC and now Cane's are getting into this who makes the best chicken sandwich. And people are waiting in long lines to buy a fried chicken sandwich.
Unusual.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that Chick-fil-A and Popeyes aren't a little bit in cahoots in this thing.
Well, I think
Thinking there's enough market share for both of us.
Well, I think they're very smart. Now, there are people getting upset that people are being marketed to. Well, you know what? When you're in a competitive business like that, you better do some marketing.
Well, excuse me?
Yeah, I know.
Excuse me? We sell a product and we're marketing to you, and that's a problem?
Some crank was posting about how dumb we are. They're just trying to get your money. Well, yeah, that's their job.
Well, it is kind of interesting when, it's like, okay, so Popeyes comes out with this new fried chicken sandwich, and I guess they have a spicy version as well. Mm-hmm. Some people like their chicken spicy.
Yeah.
And suddenly, Popeyes get into the left lane because traffic from the Popeyes I was passing had spilled out into the right lane. Mm-hmm. And this was not in a big town.
I noticed that EMS has got units staged at every one of their locations in case they need to zap somebody.
Bill, yesterday, zap somebody. That's where I was going. Yesterday, and it was a brief visit to Facebook. I just opened up my Facebook feed and scrolled through. 4 separate incidents captured on video. 4 in 4 separate towns, 4 separate Popeyes. Knockdown, drag out, cussing and swearing, people hitting each other with chairs.
What?
Over a chicken sandwich.
Well, Lance here at La Divina Italian Cafe, they have 2 chicken sandwiches. And these are the real deal chicken sandwiches. And in a few minutes, we're going to show you. We're going to hold one up to the camera, and you can say, is this a chicken sandwich you want to come in and order, and you can sit comfortably while you wait for it, or do you want to get into Chicken War 3 at some franchise? I ask you that. Which do you prefer?
It's interesting, too, is that Popeyes, I think, still needs to work on that customer service experience, because I've had some Facebook friends, you go up and say, yeah, I'd like to get that chicken sandwich. We out. That's what you get.
The chicken machine, it broke.
The chicken machine, it broke. I'm so reminded of McDonald's when no McDonald's has a working ice cream machine.
Now, that sweet lady that you see in the Popeyes commercial.
Oh, Annie. I love Annie.
She doesn't work in any of the restaurants.
No, she's an actress.
There's nobody like her that works in any of the restaurants.
I wish people like Annie worked in the restaurants. I'd like to sit down and have beers with Annie.
The customer service experience at a fast food franchise could be upgraded.
But Bill, have you been to a Chick-fil-A lately?
Oh.
The customer service experience at Chick-fil-A is top notch.
Well, you know why?
Absolutely top notch. Because they won't settle for less from their employees.
They have very strict standards, and of course, They go through a serious interview process with these kids. They tell them what's expected of them. They tell them that they're supposed to bond with their customers and make them happy. All the things that people hated Mr. Cathy, that's his name, right?
I think so.
That they hated him
If
for.
memory serves.
Yeah, they hated him for having standards and vision and
being all religious and stuff.
which any employee
Oh
will
my
say that
God.
never came into his stores other than the fact that he closed them on Sundays. But
Oh, finish your thought, and I'll tell you an amusing story.
but they pay their employees well, they hold them to standards, and they have a path to promotion if they perform well, and they all know that. And that's the same thing with Cane's, by the way. I have never had can I help you, brother? At Cane's, I've never had that. Because then you have to go through the thing explaining that I'm not their
Well,
brother.
the most familiar you get from Raising Cane's is chicken, which one you picking? Love Raising Cane's. And I think the Raising Cane's chicken sandwich is, top notch.
They have a high standard for their employees. Kevin, yours, I can't believe that you said the customer service experience at Popeyes needs to be upgraded.
Yeah, it leaves a little to be desired sometimes. I don't want to paint all Popeyes with a broad brush, but this guy said, you ordered a chicken set, we out. That's all he got. We out. Okay, I'm sorry, sir. We're out of the buns to make the chicken sandwiches. Could I interest you in one of our other fine chicken products?
The chicken machine had broke.
Now, another Facebook friend related this story. On Sunday, he had managed to, find a Popeyes that did not have an extremely long line. So he got in line, and he ordered his chicken, and when he got up to pay, and he was getting his chicken sandwiches, he made some reference to Chick-fil-A, and the person at Popeye said, "Oh yeah, Chick-fil-A, they in bad shape over there, man, because we're knocking them out. I mean, the Chick-fil-A over on Millerville had to close." It's like, it's Sunday. They're not open on Sunday.
Let's see. Monday, that other one after Monday.
But all this,
The one with the W.
what kills me is it's social media, I believe, is the driving force behind this. You get some popular radio people like Michelle Southern or some others that post about it and talk about it, and she's got a big wide following. You've got a big following. I haven't really posted about the chicken sandwich myself, but that suddenly translates into lines
Now,
around the building. And
it's like, you know what? Just don't be upset. Don't sit in the line to get the don't
one
taste
later.
test.
Another day.
Yeah, just don't do it.
Another day. These fights that have been going on at the Popeyes that I saw a video of were mostly because an employee, or not an employee, a customer got upset because he couldn't get one.
Yeah, because the chicken machine had
And in
broke.
one case, it was two women throwing down because woman A got the last one,
Oh.
and woman B was all upset about it. And in one video, I saw 4 videos. In one video, when the fight went outside, they took it outside, and of course, I'm going to give the guy high marks for turning his phone landscape to film instead of upright, which I hate that. But the whole time, he's egging him on. Go on, cuz! Go on, cuz! Big fight going on. Follows him outside.
And which location was this?
It was a Popeye somewhere in the South. I didn't see which town. But when they got outside, Popeyes had already called the cops. So there was a uniformed cop there and a security guy wearing a white shirt. And these two women are fighting the cops.
You know,
It's like when the cops come, that's when you stop dead in your tracks and do nothing.
when you have to have security at a fast food restaurant, I take it he was there all the time.
Yeah, why do you need a security guard at a chicken restaurant?
I think you've answered that question.
Anyway, they're working on, back in the kitchen right now at La Divina Italian Cafe, they're working on their version of a chicken sandwich. And
They've got 2 versions they're going to bring us.
They're going to bring us out, and we're going to nom while y'all watch.
If Lance remembered, that is.
Yeah.
If Lance remembered. He has busy mornings here. But anyway, now, the other thing that was happening locally was American Idol auditions. They had them at the Hilton downtown. A lot of people showed up.
Yeah.
And some of the video from the first in the first newscasts was what I call real Chamber of Commerce video. Made me real proud to be a Baton Rougean.
Proud. Boy.
It's like, you can't even focus your eyes or speak. Tell me why you are here to audition as a singer.
There are so many people. You know, Marianne and I quit watching American Idol several years back because to me it just got repetitive. It's the same thing every year. Same thing with that dancing show. So you think you can dance? We quit watching it. The only reason to watch it is the auditions, because some of these people, it's just so painful. Have you ever been embarrassed for someone? When you're watching television?
Yeah.
You're sitting there and you're embarrassed.
Have you seen our city council?
Because some of these people they seemingly have no clue how talentless they actually are. And they think they're great because their mom is there telling them they're great. You know, you're great, you're the best, you're going to be a big star. And I'm sure that they got some of those, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Not everybody can be Lane Hardy.
Now, speaking of Lane Hardy, however, there was a non-Chamber of Commerce interview with a couple of the producers, because you're auditioning at this stage for producers. They have them set up in the big ballroom, you know.
You're not going to see any famous names on
corners, you know, so that 2 people, 3 people, 4 people can audition at once and not hear each other. But the producers were saying something about Livingston Parish. They thought might be going on to the next stage. You know, they are musical people out there in Denham.
Jane offers this. Pick the biggest pity party, and those are the ones that are going to win. Those are the ones that are going on to the show. You know, Ashley says you may remember this guy. I'm trying to remember his name. There was, when American Idol was kind of at its peak, there was an Asian kid who came out and did the worst version of She Bangs ever.
Oh, God, yes.
And he's like made millions off of the fact that he sucks.
Well, I mean,
can anybody remember that guy's name? I can't remember his name.
A full 25% of the American music industry sucks.
Yeah.
And they make millions.
Yeah.
Was that guy from Korea, Psy, with Gangnam Style?
Gangnam Style, terrible. Absolutely terrible. Although his dance moves aren't so bad.
But a pudgy little Korean man shouldn't be doing dance moves.
Yeah, and as long as we're 2 old guys complaining about modern music, let's talk about Cardi B. Who the hell is she? Where did she come from? And why has she been foisted on us? It's what gets me about these people is that they're just all of a sudden there they are, and they're a superstar. It's like I didn't see her on the road up anywhere. Did you?
No, let's swing it back to American Idol.
William Hung, that was the guy. William Hung.
Was he?
I'm not gonna.
He should have been.
I'm not going there.
He should have been. See, the whole thing, when you're not embarrassed to be in sequins and do really bad 5th grade rhymes and jump around like your nads are on fire, when that doesn't embarrass you, the rest of us should kind of take out the trash on that and not support it. You know, seriously.
So how much of this did you get to see as far as actual auditions? Did you see any talent?
Not really.
Well, that might have been the producer of the news piece. You know, maybe didn't want to spoil anything, or wanted to show you the worst of the worst.
No, there was just one little girl, and she's probably late teens, early 20s. And I didn't get her name or anything, but she said she was there because her mom had passed away when she was 4, but she remembers that her mom told her that she always wanted her to be a singing star.
Okay.
And
my mom always wanted me to be a plastic surgeon. Didn't work out.
Well, how much do you actually remember from when you were 4, Kevin?
Surprisingly a lot.
Do you?
According to my mom. She said, no way you should be able to remember that. And I go, well, there it is. I do.
Ay. But anyway, a lot of this stuff, like I said, was real Chamber of Commerce stuff. It was like the people speaking to the television cameras could barely make a sentence.
Everybody have their teeth?
As far as I could tell.
Okay.
We didn't get to see any of the
Dentistry in the
people.
LP is, leaps and bounds.
We all saw Baton Rouge people on the news. We didn't see the LP people that the producers said they liked. This was in the Advocate article that the producers talked about talent from the Livingston Parish area that was so good that they thought some of them were going to go on. Some of them were going to go further. Now, here's the question. You used to sing. Yeah, you were in bands, you sang, you got paid for it, you had a lot of gigs you played.
Yeah.
I did too. Now, if American Idol or what's the one on NBC that I kind of like that?
The Voice.
The Voice. If that were around when you were back in your youth and singing, would you have auditioned?
No.
No?
No. I was part of a band. I never thought of myself as songs occasionally, but most of the time I was, harmonies.
It's kind of the Lane Hardy story.
Just harmonies and played the bass.
That's-
So no, I don't think I ever would have, auditioned for a TV show.
I would have jumped in.
Well, but you were a lead singer in your band. You were the front man.
Well, that's true. But I would have jumped in just to see. Before they left Fox, it was in their last couple of seasons where they did these auditions are so bad joke reel on a few of the shows. Remember?
Yep.
And they were having problems with basically people punking their auditions. I wonder if they have trimmed that down a little bit.
Maybe so. ABC carries it now, right?
ABC carries it.
Okay. Now I'm curious. Were you watching this, or were you watching WAFB, or were you?
No,
You were watching Channel 2.
I decided the smart play would be to watch the network-affiliated station that actually would be carrying American Idol. So yes, I was watching WBRZ, the big two in the sky. So Steve Carter is supposed to be on with us in a few minutes.
Yes.
Do you see any Steve Carter anywhere?
No, not yet.
No, we're Carterless at the moment.
Carterless.
Yeah, you can bring it over here, Lance. We're ready. Now, y'all want to see a real chicken sandwich? This is what we're talking about. For those of you, I can promise there will be no fist fights here. You will not have to wait in a long line. All right, Lance, sit down in front of that microphone. This is Lance LeBlanc, who is the proprietor, along with his lovely wife, Mary, of La Divina Italian Cafe. What is this?
That is a Bianca. That is what we call our Bianca. That's a house sandwich that we've developed. It's got the grilled chicken breast, zucchini, and mozzarella, provolone cheese, pardon me.
Provolone.
So you ain't going to get no zucchini at Popeyes.
No, I don't
You don't
believe.
get any provolone either.
And it comes in two forms. We get the whole panini, or we can also do it with a half panini
She's
and
standing
side
there like
salad.
Mr. Clean.
She wants to know if you like her sandwich.
Come over here.
This is the chef.
Over here.
This is April.
April, you made this?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to take a bite. Kevin, vamp for me while I bite here.
Okay, Bill is biting. Let me widen this shot out so everybody can see everybody. Can you taste the love? Mm-hmm. All right then.
And no danger to your heart. It's grilled.
April, just out of curiosity, how long does it take to whip one of these up?
Oh, that took about 4.5 minutes, 5 at the most.
See, I would wait 5 minutes. Tell us about sandwich number 2.
That's a Monteleone. That's
Taste sandwich number 2, Kevin. You taste that one.
That's,
All right.
that's grilled chicken, marinara, mozzarella, and grilled
You're not
portobello
gonna set that on your
mushrooms.
keyboard here. I'll hold it for you.
You just push that forward.
Each of those come with a side salad, choice of a
Now, this is a
Caesar.
Caesar here.
Yes, sir. And we
Hail
also have
Caesar.
a house.
See, I like this one because it's got a little marinara thing going on.
And there are mushrooms on that as well.
Love mushrooms. Here we go. That is sinfully good. Oh my goodness.
And best part, it's not fried.
These are grilled. These are relatively all healthy, right?
Yes, sir.
All the dressings are made from scratch. All fresh vegetables go into it. Everything's handmade.
And then you get a little salad on the side, as you can see on the plate.
That is a wonderful. Now, let's switch. I'm going to give you a fresh half of this one.
Oh, you want to swap a doodle?
I got to taste that one too.
There you go.
All right, look at that. Coming out the side. That's really good.
I love that you put zucchini on this one, because zucchini and chicken go together really, really well.
Absolutely.
This reminds me of something that you would grab in Little Italy in Chicago.
Sure.
And your idea is you're going to take it back to your office or whatever, but you'd be
You never make it that far.
peeling the wax paper and taking, this is really, really good. Now,
And on that Bianco, I mean, or both paninis actually, since they are made, allow substitutions and things like that. We'll get a frequent substitution where they'll substitute the eggplant for zucchini, and that's quite good as well. So, and both of those are quite popular here.
See, now, you can get in your car, you can go to one of these drive-through places and sit in line for 20 minutes. Or you can come here, sit down, enjoy some good music
Wi-Fi.
and Wi-Fi, and they'll bring it to your table. And it's awesome.
now, is this available lunch and dinner?
From the time we open at 7 a.m. to the time we close at 9 p.m.
So all day long.
all day long.
So you can come in for a late lunch, maybe have a nice little glass of wine with this.
Absolutely the Bianco goes great with a nice Chardonnay.
Now, do you start with
That's just so
with
good.
whole breasts, or do you start with cutlets? Because I know
No,
you've made it right there.
That's a whole breast that's sliced when it's ordered.
So you go ahead and slice it longitudinally,
Yeah,
and then on the grill real quick,
on the grill.
because it's not dried out at all.
Not
It's
at all.
very juicy.
They take a little bit more patience and time, but they come out pretty quick, and we haven't had any complaints, so that's always a positive.
And what's the price point on this?
About $9, $10, depending on how you order
Well, the
it.
damn fried chicken sandwich
Yeah.
at the fast food places is what, $6.99?
Well, you get in there and you get that, you get fries, you get a drink, you're going to spend $9.
Yeah.
Well, here comes Mr. Carter to join us.
That's absolutely
I'll take
fantastic.
those out of your way if you like.
Oh, no, leave them right
No,
here.
we're gonna keep-
Leave it right
We're
here.
going to keep them real handy. But thank you, Lance. Appreciate you.
Representative Carter, come on in and sit down.
All right, no ice.
Have a seat right there.
Right there?
Right there.
Well, that's exciting.
That's your place.
Carter, good to see you again.
Good to see you, man.
Pleasure to see you
Have a
guys.
seat.
Y'all doing all right?
We're
Doing
all
great.
right.
Just joining us right now, just walked in the door here at La Divina, is State Representative Steve Carter, who is term limited in the House, but is running for Senate District 16. Good to see you. I saw you on the news last night, speaking at Press Club.
Right.
How did that go?
I enjoy doing stuff like that because they challenge you. They ask you very difficult, tough questions, and you need to make sure that you understand the issues, and it was good. It was, we have 5 candidates, and which I thought was nice of them to invite all 5. You had a Libertarian, a young man who did a nice job, and you've got another Republican, and of course, you have Beverly Thompson, Franklin, and myself. So we have 5 good candidates, I think, for the position.
All good people. What sets you apart?
Well, and we've talked when y'all were, with the radio, and y'all are great. Y'all do a very good job of informing people what's going on, and y'all also ask some very good questions. And the thing that I think is, as I've tried a lot of stuff, and that's what I'm here to do, is to try to improve the quality of life of the citizens, not only of the district, but the citizens of the state. And I attempt to try to do bold things if I can. And so, we had the trucking issue where I'm trying to get the trucks to slow the vehicles down and have them drive on the right-hand side of the road. I've tried to do stuff like, I honestly think that the governor has a tremendous amount of power, and that he has appointments to the Board of Regents, the LSU Board, the Southern Board, and the community college system. And instead of just politically appointing people just because they'd like to be on it or whatever it might be, I think you need to have minimum requirements, because those are very, very important boards. I think people who...
Some of these boards, you don't want lay people
Yeah.
or people that don't have any particular
Right.
technical knowledge.
And so I tried to put some restrictions on it, saying that they had to be possibly someone who had run a major business or had been involved in budgetary capacity of the business and what have you. And you hate to put the word vision in there, because what is vision? But people need to have a vision for where we're trying to go with higher education in this state. And that didn't pass, but I thought it was the right thing to do, at least attempt to try to do it. And then We've tried to improve the infrastructure in the state. I've tried to improve the educational system in the state. I've had some bills where the school boards could not micromanage the superintendent, and also we dealt with some tenure issues and a number of other things. So I enjoy it, and I like to talk to people. I like to find out what it is that they feel like that we need to do in the state that can improve the quality of life. And instead of just sort of chipping around on the edges and what have you, I'd rather attempt to try to make bold reform. But bold reform is tough. I mean, change is not easy. People get in their comfort zone and they don't want to move out of it.
Well, and truer words never spoken. I noticed one of your sound bites last night on the news was courage.
Right.
That's what's needed, is courage. And sometimes it's not the most expedient thing to do to propose raising the fuels tax, because we've got a big infrastructure problem. We need a new bridge. We've got rotting bridges. We've got roads that are going to rot. But that seems to be, at a time when nobody wants to pay more taxes, that seems to be an obvious solution to the problem. But it takes courage to to come forward and say, we need to raise more money.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And the interesting thing about it is, I'm not sure what other options are, because we haven't done anything in 30 years. And I'm not for taxes, trust me. But I look at it more as a conservative issue, that it saves people money instead of standing in traffic, sitting there idling, costing you fuel because you're not moving. And it also, you have a situation where, you have the roads in disrepair, where if you hit a pothole or something, you got to get your car repaired. So I'm looking at ways where we can actually put money in people's pockets, save people money by us attempting to try to solve the problem that, we have bridges that are out, and particularly north Louisiana, that are unsafe. They've closed, and so therefore, if you're a trucker with, if you're in the forestry industry, lumber, or if you're someone who is a farmer, they can't get their produce to where it needs to go. So consequently, they're having to go around 30 maybe miles out of the way, because the bridges are out. They're in disrepair. So what do you do about it? Well, you attempt to find the dollars. And I have a problem, to be honest with you, with DOTD, the way it's structured, and that all your dollars for gasoline goes into the Transportation Trust Fund, that all they do is take out of there salaries, benefits, et cetera, and by the time they've done all of that, then what's left is for repair and roads and what have you. So the bill that we had in 19, I thought, was a very good bill, and that bill said that a portion of those dollars are going into a sub-fund that it cannot be used other than for transportation issues, i.e. repairs or new capacity or whatever it might be. And that was a good bill, because it made DOTD sort of shrink its dollar amount that they received from the gasoline tax. And now, in the event that they can't operate based on the dollars that they have, they had to go in front of the Appropriations Committee in the House and justify why they need additional dollars. Excuse me. They don't have to do that right now. So we did some reform in that bill. I just wished that the timing had been a little bit better and it could have passed.
Was it 19 or was it 18 when we fixed it so that the state police weren't benefiting from the Transportation Trust?
I think that was 17.
17.
Yeah.
How long ago?
Yeah.
That seemed to be one that really needed doing. And I have no truck with the pardon the pun, with the state police, but it just seemed to be an odd funding source.
Well, they did that because they were moving around dollars, taking dollars from certain funds and what have you, trying to patch the budget, and without raising taxes. And so that, I agree with you, that was a good bill, and it made sure that the dollars that we're paying are being spent like they should be spent. And we have an awful lot of reform that needs to happen, in my opinion, on the budget and on the tax code. And there's an awful lot of talk right now about a constitutional convention, and people, when we discuss the fact that when there are less funds and a budget is struggling, everything's protected but higher education and health. And everybody wonders, well, why are you always picking on higher ed? Well, everything is protected in the Constitution, so we can't touch it. So consequently, if you don't have the dollars, you've got to find dollars that are not protected, and those are the only two that are not protected.
But health seems to be a sacred cow of late.
It is.
What's 27% of the annual budget?
An awful lot.
Yeah.
An awful lot.
It's a huge chunk of
It
money.
is. It's an awful
I know
lot.
a lot of it's federal pass-through dollars, but
Right.
still, it's a lot of money.
It's an awful lot. And again, when you start talking about that, and then you start looking at a budget, and you start looking at things that we need to try to do inside the budget, again, your hands are tied. And that's why people are talking about the Constitutional Convention. There are other ways to tackle the problem too, in that North Carolina did a marvelous job with this tax reform. And in doing so, and you know, Kevin, whenever you start monkeying with the budget and you're monkeying with dollars, you're touching, you know, sacred cows, as you say, and you're not going to make people happy because you're looking at things that they have protected, and they've had it protected for a long time, and all of a sudden it may be unprotected, and they're going to have to come back down to the legislature to justify what the needs are. Well, as an example, I mean, you know, we need to broaden, in my opinion, our sales tax base. I mean, if you go to the barber shop, should you pay taxes at the barber? I don't know, but we don't right now. But North Carolina looked at a lot of that and broadened its tax base, and then lowered the individual income tax rates, and then also did some things for businesses. You know, I go to Cincinnati every year for a tennis tournament, and Cincinnati's a pretty neat town, and I don't know what the difference in the size between Baton Rouge and Cincinnati is, but if you look at our state, to my knowledge, you may know this better than I do, I don't know of a Fortune 500 company in our state. It may be Entergy or it may be CenturyLink, but that's...
CenturyLink, I think.
I think so. I'm not sure, but my point in saying that is, here's a town of Cincinnati. It doesn't have one. It doesn't have two. It has 5 Fortune 500 companies there. So you want to look and say, how is that? Why is that? How is the business climate? What do they do that attract those types of businesses? Because you look at our natural resources, and we all ought to be on par with, you know, the Nashvilles of the world or the Cincinnatis of the world, particularly here in Baton Rouge. But you look at the states and stuff like that. I mean, you know, I don't want to talk about public-private partnerships or tolls. Mediocrity. Some ways, somehow, they got to be paid for us to improve and move up the ladder. And so you got to be creative and innovative in some things that you're trying to do. And those people do it. And that excites me on trying to figure out ways where we can make a difference.
Well, speaking of innovative, I remember a few years ago, it was in 16 or 17, you proposed something called the bump.
Right.
Which would have turned Airline Highway into an expressway leading all the way to the old bridge and across.
Right.
And then have the surface streets, the frontage roads be the commercial airline highway. And I thought it was a marvelous idea.
It is a good idea. Franklin Foyle and I worked on that a good bit, and it is a good idea. And we've talked to DOTD about it. And the interesting thing about that is you don't have to go out and purchase any other land. You've already got the right of way. You have everything that you need. And another thing that people have talked about too is double decking. You know, you go over to Austin or you go to other towns in Texas or other areas, and they have double decks.
They're stacked, yeah.
And again, those are ideas. They're great. They're neat. And again, you sit back and say, where's the funding coming from? And the other frustrating thing is, what's the priority? Is the priority the bump? Is the priority double decking? Is the priority a new bridge? Is the priority health reform? Is the priority, higher education? So you're limited because we're a small state with only 4.5 million people. And our budget, yes, it is large in my opinion, and it's bloated, and that's why we need a constitutional convention to try to undo some dedicated and what have you.
It seems to grow by roughly $1 billion every year, too.
And you have to include a little bit, to their defense, is inflation, obviously.
Certainly.
But inflation is not that high right now, but it will. You know, when you're talking about $1 billion and you're talking about inflation of whatever it might be, it's got to move up a little bit because it is going to happen, but not to the extent that it's happening now. So you sit back and say, well, where can you cut? And when you cut, you're dealing with people again, and you don't want to hurt people. But on the other side of the coin, in my opinion, as a conservative Republican, you need to make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck. Are these the areas where we're servicing the number of people that we need to, doing the things that are necessary to ensure that we're improving the quality of life for everyone, and doing things where people will not leave the state, their children will not leave the state, and we can keep people here.
In so many cases, though, and I'm referring to Medicaid expansion in particular, but once something is given, it's very difficult to take it away.
Very.
And now we're on the hook.
Yep.
And it's an expensive program.
And
And we
that-
found out that there's been some fraud,
Sad.
there's been some waste, and is there any way to turn that corner? Or?
Yeah, well, we are. And, they've obviously put in a new computer system where they're being able to identify those people that are illegal and shouldn't be on it.
Mm-hmm.
They're making way too much money to qualify. And the other thing I think needs to happen, that for some reason we can't get passed, we can't get it done, is I think the legislative auditor ought to have access to it, to where he can sit there and tell people where we are. Tony Bacala and Rick Edmonds have tried that for a couple of sessions. We just can't seem to get it off dead center, but there are ways where we can.
I'd want the legislative auditor to have access. I'd want
Absolutely.
the inspector general to have access.
Legislative auditor is on record as saying he wants access, but the Department of Revenue will not release tax returns,
Yeah.
and they are an executive department.
I know.
That can be taken care of with the stroke of a pen.
Yeah, and it is frustrating, and you're right. Once you give someone something, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be done, I'm not saying that they don't deserve whatever, and I'm not just talking about Medicare, the expansion of it, but what I'm talking about is just in general of anything. If you give somebody something, and then all of a sudden you take it away, man, it is really tough. So that's why at the front end, you need to ensure. And so most of the stuff that I try to see, that whenever we give something to somebody, it's sunset. Mm-hmm. You sit there and you say, we'll give it a 5-year or whatever it might be, 3-year look-see. And if it's working, great. If it isn't, they got to come back in and justify where they are, or the program is eliminated. And that's where things ought to be. But once you just open it up and don't sunset anything, like you say, it's there and it's tough to take away.
Yeah.
Steve, I've asked this of every Senate or representative candidate who has come on our program, and I'm sure there's going to be more. I would ask the same thing of gubernatorial candidates. And what I'm asking is this, and you and I and Kevin talked about this months and months and months ago. I believe there is a tremendous amount of taxpayer fatigue and frustration in this state. And I do think that there needs to be a change in the legislature in terms of appropriating to actually get some things accomplished for those who are paying the bills rather than for those who are part of the dependent class. Have you thought about this?
No, that comes up a good bit, and I appreciate you bringing it back up again. And you're correct. Albemarle, the chairman of that board's wife, came to me exactly in that issue. It was saying, you're always taking care of those kids who are in need. What about those kids who want to be above and beyond what the average is? Mm-hmm. You never talk about them. You talk about, a magnet school here or there, or you talk about trying to assist those types of people, but you don't elevate them to a position where they can really get a quality education. You don't talk about that. And she was right, and see what they did, they moved because they were concerned. And so you've hit on a nerve, and but I'm not sure what areas that we can do that in. You need to give me some examples and see what we can do.
Everybody's very, very proud, or some people are very proud of this Medicaid expansion. And to me, what that means is we're just going to sign more people up to provide for them. The goal should be, in my opinion, Medicaid reduction. We shouldn't be proud of making more people dependent. We should start looking at our rates. If we pay the highest rates in the union for certain programs, perhaps we should legislatively reduce those as an incentive. I just had to have an alignment on my car. Front wheels only. $89 for an alignment before tax. And I was reminded then how many people listening to us now in Baton Rouge who go to work every day and work hard and pay taxes have had to pay 3 or 4 times in the last 4 years for an alignment so that they can go to work to pay the taxes to take care of the people who don't. And it's frustrating. I have lost my sense of humor about this.
No. Well, you got a good point there, and I wish I had an answer, but the biggest problem I see is that obviously we're a very poor state, and you got to accept that, and you got to accept the fact that we've got, is government here to help people all the time, or do people have to help themselves some of the time? And so you're right, in that we do probably do things that we possibly could eliminate or reduce. But again, you got to recognize the fact that there are awful lot of people out there that are in need, and an awful lot of people trying to do the right thing by going to school, having a family, working 2 or 3 jobs. What do you do to help them to where they can be productive citizens, where they can get involved like we do? Because we've had a great life.
And I used to be very, very sympathetic to that. I really did. But, you ask a very good question. Is the state government here to help people? In my opinion, the state government is here to make decisions every day as to what is in the best interest of the state as a whole. And you know what? If I've got a business that's maybe looking to come to Baton Rouge or Alexandria and I employ 500 executive people, it's a paper-pushing business. I don't want to hear that my state government is focused on expanding our welfare plans. That's not where I want to come and bring my business. I don't want to drive from the airport to go do site selections and have the fillings rattle out of my teeth because of crappy roads. This tail is wagging this dog to the point where it's needs a neck brace. We need to start taking care of the people that can take care of those in need, and we need to start it quickly.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to throw it back to you. Give me a couple of areas where we're not doing that. Is it education? Is it infrastructure? Is it, I'm sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. What areas are the people who are footing the bill?
Infrastructure. Our roads are awful. Our traffic is the worst in the nation. We waste a lot of energy and time and money.
But seemingly, Bill, the only way to fix the infrastructure is to hit the taxpayers for more money.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, money's needed.
Yep.
I would cut DH's budget by half. That would put about $4 billion back into infrastructure.
That was the bill we had in 19, where we took and put it into a sub-fund. Half of the tax dollar was going into a sub-fund. The rest of it was staying to operate DOTD. And if DOTD cannot operate with those dollars, then they got to come in front of appropriations and justify why they need more money. I agree with that. That's a reform that needs to happen, and we need to continue to look at areas like that where we can do reform and make some things happen.
I don't want to get Dr. Wilson gunning for me, but what do they need 5,000 employees at DOTD for? They don't do any road work at DOTD.
Well, he does have an awful lot of things that they do, and he has reduced it down to where you say 5,000. And this is still a large number. I'm going to say 3,500. He has reduced it, but they do have a lot. I mean, you sit there and you talk about repair. You talk about having to cut the grass. You're talking about a lot of different things that they're responsible for doing, particularly whenever there's a disaster. A lot of those people have to go out and do a number of things that help us, and so it's not just what you're talking about. They do have other auxiliary responsibilities.
Well, and in truth, outside of the major metros, DOTD does handle on the connector roads that are in rural areas.
State highways, parish
It handles
highways.
the repairs, it handles the traffic signals.
Right.
And so they have to do all the bridge inspections.
Yeah.
What have we got, 40,000 bridges in Louisiana?
Tons. Well, I'm going to go back again and ask you, so people like us, where are we as a state not servicing and doing the things that we need to do to try to improve our quality of life? We talk about improving the quality of life of those people that are struggling. So are there any areas that you would see? Do we have too many universities to where we can save some dollars there? Do we?
We have too many programs at too many universities.
Yeah. I'm just saying, give me some suggestions and
When you have
ideas.
a doctorate in nursing, for example, that only has 2 people enrolled at a state university, you're fully funding a department for that, perhaps it's time to think about consolidation a little bit. But what I'm worried about is the overall attractiveness of the state of Louisiana to bring in good business with good jobs at every level, executive level jobs, C-suite level jobs, all the way down to entry level jobs, so we can get people to have the joy of good employment for good companies, pay their reasonable taxes, get the services that they deserve, rather than, it seems that we kind of focus. I mean, I can't tell you how many people came into our studios. People will die. And I said, who? And I got blank stares. We don't allow people to die in any state of this union.
Yeah.
But they're using that as a stalking horse
Yeah.
to
Well, that was
expand these programs.
That was the argument for Medicaid expansion, is people will die. But
Yeah.
we were also originally told we were only going to sign up 250,000 people, and it's like,
Yeah.
was it
Double
nearly
that.
500,000
Yeah,
people?
yeah.
State education, we have some school districts that are stellar, but most of our school districts are very bad. And I'm sorry, I have a great deal of respect for teachers. You used to be a teacher.
Yeah.
$1,000 pay increase is an insult.
Yeah. Well, again, it goes back to priorities and goes back to dollars. I mean, and I agree. I mean, do we need to have more greenery? Do we have to support the arts? Do we have to support bike paths? Do we have to support teachers? I mean, it's a holistic approach to wanting to come to the state of Louisiana. One area that I have a lot of frustration with is that when you enter the state, sometimes on the interstate, you may find a sofa.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's embarrassing.
You can
That
hear-
should never
You can hear
happen.
the banjos in your head as
You
you
know,
go
that
by.
just, that's, and so my point is, if you want to really attract, your image is important. If you go to Disney, what do you think about? I mean, if you go to the Masters, you never see any trash on the ground.
Right.
Everything's immaculate. And so our mindset, and I attribute a lot of that to education, to be honest with you.
Yep.
I think that if you're an educated person and you have an opportunity, if you do, to have a quality of life, I don't remember the last time I threw something out of my car to
Take
litter.
pride in your surroundings.
Yeah, that's right, and everybody should. But again, it takes education to do that, and it takes a good family environment to where your parents tell you what to expect and how to treat people and how to ensure that you treat the environment properly. So there's so many things that we can talk about, but again, it goes back to what's the most important one? Where do we start? And then chip away.
Go ahead, Bill, and then I have a question.
We're going to have reapportionment, no doubt about that, after the next census. Does the Senate or the House, is there a possibility to reapportion all the districts so that they're economically balanced, so you don't have people that are beating a horse for one side or the other, and you can perhaps get things done that are fair and equitable?
Well, you got to remember, you got certain numbers of people and types of people that you have to represent. So that's where when you talk about gerrymandering, you end up having to draw districts to make sure that those people or whatever are represented. And I understand that because you want fair, equitable representation. And so it's a good question. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting. The Supreme Court said that there is no necessarily gerrymandering. I mean, you can do what you need to do to ensure that everybody's represented properly. So it's going to come up, and it's going to be an interesting dogfight. It comes up in about, the year after the new senators, governor, and representatives are elected. And everybody, when you get into that situation, everybody fights for themselves to make sure that they don't get left out. I know last time they had a couple of representatives that took it for the team that they got left out. They were very good representatives. And so I can't answer what's going to happen. I understand how it happens, and I understand what you're saying, but the system is set up to where is equal representation, and everybody's different, particularly in this state. As an example, you may have someone in a rural area who has a gravel road, and they want it paved, okay? That's important to them. Here, we don't even think about that. We need a new bridge. So we're talking about billions of dollars versus $100,000, say, to do what they want to have done. So you got a wide disparity. So what you have to do in the legislature is you got to develop relationships. I'll help you if you help me. And that's how it works, and that's how it is. Is that the right way to do it? I don't know, but it seems to work.
You don't have much choice.
No, you don't have much choice. And so when you say that we need to make sure that, that certain, and I understand where you're coming from, but it's not easy to do, is what I'm trying to say. You've got to have equal representation, and just because we think one way doesn't necessarily mean that someone who's in draw prong thinks different than what we do. They have different needs and desires and what have you.
And I agree with you that it's not easy to do. But see, I think some of that is by design. The fact that our revenue secretary feels that Department of Revenue will not disclose tax returns so that we can take some people off of programs because they now make too much money as a privacy issue, that, to me, is absurd. I would think that they would want the legislative auditor to come in there and identify and then remand that money back out of their budget. See, some of this is difficult by design. And that's what I have a problem with.
Steve, before we go, I have a question about the atmosphere at the Capitol. Now, you've been in the House now for 3 terms. I'm aware from having covered the Capitol that there is sometimes disagreement and style differences between the House and the Senate. If you're elected to the Senate, how would you like to see the Senate change?
Well, the question, and this is my personal opinion, the question is, when the House became independent this last term, was that healthy or bad? I thought it was good.
I thought it was a good thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's very good. They got criticized a good bit because they didn't go along with the governor all the time. So we would look upon as people who were opposed to whatever it might be if the governor proposed it. People say that people have said in the House that we're not going to approve anything the governor wants because we want him to get defeated. I never heard that. Okay? We just had differencing from a philosophical standpoint of opinions on certain things and how they should get done. I personally thought that Rick Edmonds had a good bill when it said that you had to save 2% of the budget and you couldn't spend all of it. Well, they had a difference of that. Does that mean that the governor, that we weren't supporting the governor or the governor wasn't supporting us? It was just a difference of philosophy. If you go into the Senate was totally different. The Senate, you only have 39 senators, and it only takes 20 to get anything done. So the governor would spend time on the Senate side, and things that he did not want to get done that passed out of the House would go over to the Senate, and it would get defeated. Is that the right way to operate? I don't personally think so. I think the Senate needs to be independent also. I think you have an executive.
Isn't that the whole idea, the
Yes,
executive, legislative?
that's the way it's supposed to be, but it hadn't operated that way. Now, whether or not it's because of you have a Democratic governor, you have a Republican, controlled House and Senate, I don't know that, because I do know this. The people that I've served with are good people. They try to do the right things. I don't see anybody up there trying to skim, money off the top for themselves. They work hard. It's just a difficult process because you have a lot of different opinions, and you have, as Bill was saying, you got a lot of different types of people that are trying to represent their groups and trying to ensure that their groups are taken care of, and we're trying to do the same thing. The thing that frustrates me more than anything is that New Orleans came in here last session. Their mayor came in here and spent 2 months at the legislature cultivating things. They had 3 bills. One of them was with Walt Leger, Neil Abraham, and also on the Senate side they had an author on a bill. They took all the money out of here. They got pothole money. They got Convention and Visitors Bureau money for the convention center with a hotel and what have you, and they also got sewer and drainage money. They worked together, they worked hard, and they completely wiped us out. From a Baton Rouge standpoint, we got left with the dregs.
And ironically, what do they do with that sewer and drainage money?
Yeah.
You've seen the recent headlines.
Right. So my point in saying that is that we've got to do a better job in Baton Rouge. We've got to stay together, and I think that will happen now. In the past, you've had an awful lot of people who have been in the Senate and in the House who understood the institutional knowledge and stayed together and had programs, but those people are gone now. It's time for Baton Rouge to stand up, because we're going to have some people in there that have experience, institutional knowledge. We need to try to get chairman of some major committees, which we haven't had, appropriations, revenue and fiscal on the Senate side. So I'm babbling a little bit with your question. The answer is, I think that the Senate should be independent. It has not been. I think Baton Rouge needs to step up to the plate, and we need to stick together and get chairmanships, if we possibly can, of appropriation and ways and means, which are very important committees, or on the Senate side, finance and revenue and fisc. And we need to make sure that Baton Rouge gets its deserved, whatever our priorities are, making sure that the dollars, instead of flowing to New Orleans, I don't have a problem with New Orleans getting whatever it might be, but I don't want to getting all of it. we need to make sure we get our fair share.
One more quick one. What's your committee wish list if elected?
Well, I'd like to be obviously on education, transportation, and one of the judiciary committees seems to be a committee that stops a lot of, like when the Kurt Talbot had his bill, dealing with court reform and what have you, it gets killed over there. And I think we need to make sure that we have an even balance, instead of it being loaded up with people that are anti-reform. I think we need to spread it out and have a good debate, and hopefully we can pass some good legislation.
Steve Carter is running for the Senate, the House. He is term limited in the House. What's the district again, Steve?
16.
16. 5 people in that race. Whoever you vote for, make sure you go and vote. Steve, good to have you with us.
And don't forget early voting, because the LSU-Florida football game is October the 12th, and that's the date of the election. So go early vote.
What else is significant about October the 12th? That's the St. George vote, too.
Oh,
Yeah, it sure is. Well, early vote that one, too.
Yep.
So you can early vote starting on
Steve, always good to
September
see you,
28th.
sir.
Great to see you guys. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much. Come
for having
back
the courage to
come
get back
back
on
and
the
see
air
us.
and do what y'all do, because y'all are very good.
Well, thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Appreciate you.
Y'all be good.
So that's Steve Carter. He's one of 5 running for District 16.
And there's a libertarian.
There's a libertarian.
So I have a target.
I don't mean to be cruel, but I don't
come
give a
on.
libertarian a chance.
Come on.
I don't get a snowball's chance in hell.
Their entire platform is give it all back to the Indians.
I don't know. There are 2 candidates in that race that I think still are relevant to talk to, and I'm going to reach out after the program today to Beverly Brooks Thompson, see if she'd like to come on the program, perhaps Friday morning. And I am sorry, Commander Bell, I remember him quite well. He's a good guy. I don't remember the 5th candida's name. I'll do my
That's
research.
the libertarian.
That's the libertarian.
The libertarian.
Well, we'll get him on here and let you beat him up.
I won't beat him up. I can't promise that I won't make sport of him.
But the one thing that Steve said, and it's very true, he has been courageous in bringing up stuff that he knew would not get a lot of support. He's brought up tax increases. As a Republican, bringing up a tax increase is almost, a capital sin. But yet, when we're talking infrastructure,
Somewhere it went.
Yeah, well, it didn't go anywhere. But as a Republican, bringing up a tax increase of any kind, these are for infrastructure, which were sorely needed. But he knew that it was going to be an uphill struggle, but he did it anyway. He was talking about certain committees. There's one, for years, people have talked about the Senate Committee on Judiciary A, because there are 3 judiciary committees.
Or as we
A, B,
call
C.
it, Jude A.
Yeah, Jude A.
They should call it Jude Law, actually.
Where a lot of people say, where good bills go to die. Because that's the way, and especially this past legislative session, a lot of good legislation that made it through the House, got to the Senate, got assigned to Jude A, and dead. Gone.
We have a serious, serious problem. And I appreciate that Steve wanted me to elucidate on where I thought state government was failing the taxpayer, but he knows and everybody else knows. There's a commercial for the gumbo package running. This very nice lady talking about working every day, and then she
got cancer.
And
she was using her credit card to pay for her medical
the
bills.
the
The kids were
Medicaid.
helping her with her monthly bills and to buy groceries. And then Governor Edwards signed Medicaid expansion. And now you're paying for my medical bill.
But there's even more questions. She was working a full-time job. Why wasn't she insured? Either through the employer or on the exchange as required by law, because this is not something that happened 2 weeks ago.
No, the healthcare exchange had been around for years. So
I broke the law and waited for Medicaid to save me. Vote for my guy.
well, yeah, it's just, I guess, whether you have I have a jaundiced ear, I guess, because when I hear that ad, what I hear is, now you're paying my medical bills instead of my children.
Well, and again,
Thank you, Governor Edwards.
And there's another one running. I don't know who's running this one. It talks about Eddie Risponi, and he used a controversial way to hire foreign workers. It's an H-2B and H-1B program, which is sponsored by the federal government for getting legitimate workers in and out, and they're beating him up over that.
Legitimate workers is the magic word.
Yeah. But they make it seem like that's a terrible, terrible thing.
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting election season, and it's coming up on us faster than we know. I mean, early
Yeah.
voting starts in 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think we ought to have a referendum to move it.
To move it to when?
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
It'll be jolly.
Scott McKay joked that, we need to go about a campaign to convince all the Democrats that we're voting on Sunday this year.
And with that, we thank you for joining us. Thanks to Lance and everybody from La Divina. And again, I want you to look at this chicken sandwich.
That's a chicken sandwich.
You ain't gonna get this at Popeyes, okay? You want a chicken sandwich? Come eat this.
No lines.
The first 200 are on Lance. I'm kidding. I'm done.
The first 200 are on
I'm
Lance.
kidding. I'm kidding.
But we hope you'll join us Friday morning. Come by in person, pay us a visit, have a cup of coffee with us, or if you can't, right here on Facebook Live. We appreciate it.
Until that time, ta-ta.
Adios.